On a chilly November morning, a royal procession leaves Buckingham Palace on a journey to Westminster. Her Majesty the Queen is on her way to open her Parliament. Following behind in another coach is one of the greatest symbols of her reign, the Imperial State Crown. The pomp and ceremony of her arrival at Westminster is matched only by other images of her monarchy. Throughout her long reign, she has welcomed many kings and queens, presidents and foreign guests. This is the mystery and magic of monarchy on display. The least known part of these occasions are the Queen's jewels, which far outshine any other collection in the modern world. The story of fabulous diamonds and shimmering tiaras worn by beautiful princesses provides a glimpse into the fascinating world of the Queen's personal jewellery collection. On display, the Queen is supported by a dazzling array of glittering tiaras, rubies and emeralds. The majesty of monarchy encompasses priceless diamonds and other precious stones which adorn the royal treasures. For centuries, kings and queens have worn these symbols in pursuit of their royal birthright and heritage. Centuries ago, when the St. Edward's crown was used for coronations, the jewels were hired in. Nowadays they are real, and when Prince Charles wears the crown for his coronation, it'll be a heavy moment as it weighs nearly 4 pounds. Made of gold, it contains 444 precious stones, and when Prince Charles's grandfather was crowned in 1937, the Archbishop of Canterbury had to have a very steady hand to place it over the king's head. To make it easier to wear, the crown is cushioned on a band of velvet, a royal custom introduced by King Henry IV 500 years ago. Following his coronation, the king's family assembled wearing an array of many crowns.
These are symbols of monarchy. They are to be worn and to be seen that they are symbols of monarchy.
In 1937, Queen Elizabeth wore her crown, which contained the legendary Koh-i-Noor diamond. In 1902, the wife of King Edward VII, Queen Alexandra, had a crown which contained the Koh-i-Noor diamond. The Queen Consort's crown today is set with diamonds which belong to Queen Victoria, but it's the legend of the Koh-i-Noor diamond which makes it so outstanding. At the coronation in 1902, the crown contained the Koh-i-Noor and 3,688 diamonds. If Charles and Diana had stayed together, Diana would have worn the Queen Consort's crown at her husband's coronation. The Koh-i-Noor diamond, which means mountain of light, has a long and dramatic history surrounding the male owners of the precious stone.
The diamond itself has a horrendous history of really murder, mayhem and mystery, because it has throughout ages been sought after by various potentates, kings. Shah Jahan owned it, who built the Taj Mahal for his wife Mumtaz. Nadia Shah ransacked New Delhi and took it back to Persia. Then it became part of the Afghan royal family, where brother blinded brother so he wouldn't see it. So in folklore there's been this myth that every male owner comes to a sticky end. So therefore, just to be on the safe side, it has always been worn by women.
This diamond is the largest modern cut top colour diamond in the world. Its estimated value today is £50 million. It's one of the precious stones cut from the Cullinan diamond, which was a present to King Edward VII as a token of loyalty by the Transvaal people at the end of the Boer War. The raw diamond weighed a staggering 1.5 pounds.
It was gifted to the nation by the government of Transvaal. It was found in 1905, cut up in 1907, and added after that to the crown jewels.
To enhance its value, this immense diamond had to be carefully cut into as many pieces as possible.
The cutting of it was given and entrusted to Joseph Ascher of Amsterdam, who was then probably the best diamond cutter in the world, to cut it into several large stones and then smaller ones. And he studied the stone for 3-4 months. And before he decided to cut it, of course, he invited the Dutch royal family, the English royal family, and various others. And then he struck the first blow. And of course, if he misjudged, it would have just shattered like a car windscreen. But as it didn't, it fell perfectly in 2 pieces. And apparently he fainted after that.
The largest piece cleaved from the mighty Cullinan diamond is the pear-shaped Star of Africa, weighing 530 carats. It's the most valuable stone in the crown jewels, and as part of the coronation regalia, it is held in the sovereign's right hand.
As a gift to the nation, it has to be shown to be seen somewhere. And so it was decided to put in the scepter of the crown jewels.
The second largest diamond to be cut from the Cullinan is in the Imperial State Crown. It was made in 1838 for the coronation of Queen Victoria and is set with gems of striking magnificence. The Queen wore it on her coronation day in 1953. The Imperial State Crown contains the Black Prince ruby brought back to England in 1367 and later added to the crown jewels by King Henry VIII. Beneath it is the huge second Star of Africa with emeralds and sapphires. For her coronation, the Queen bears the mighty weight of the Imperial State Crown. Despite being altered to reduce the height, the crown still contains 2,800 diamonds. Every year, the Queen wears it for the state opening of Parliament.
My lord, pray be seated.
It's been traditionally used throughout the centuries. The monarch has always opened Parliament. Since Victoria, the same crown in essence has been used. It's been modified, been renewed, but in essence the state crown has been the same for the last 150, 160 years.
From her throne in the House of Lords, the Queen outlines her government's legislation. The third and fourth diamond to be cut from the Cullinan has traditionally been part of the Queen Consort's crown. Known as the Lesser Stars of Africa, the gems can be removed from the crown and worn separately. They were brought by King Edward VII, and to this day they are the Queen's personal property. In 1911, the Queen's grandmother, Queen Mary, wore them on her dress as a brooch. Their estimated value today is £12 million. In 1937, Queen Mary wore them pinned to the front of her dress at the coronation of her son, King George VI. Beside her were her grandchildren, Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret. The Queen often wears the Lesser Stars of Africa as a brooch, together with another stone cut from the Cullinan diamond, which she wears as a ring. One of the Queen's favourite jewels is the heart-shaped diamond brooch cut from the Cullinan. 2 more Cullinan diamonds were used to create another magnificent brooch.
They were taken out of the crown jewels, and they are in royal possession because they always were personal pieces of the monarch.
In 1897, Queen Victoria celebrated her Diamond Jubilee and was photographed wearing her collet diamond necklace and earrings. The estimated value today is £1.5 million. The Queen often wears the collet necklace to the state opening of Parliament. It was made in 1858, and the pendant stone is known as the Lahore diamond.
The diamond drops that are on the earrings and the drop on the bottom of the collet necklace did actually come from the Timor ruby necklace. It was given to Queen Victoria in 1851 by the East India Company. They now form part of the crown jewels.
These early images from the turn of the century capture Queen Victoria at Balmoral in Scotland. In 1911, her life was commemorated with the unveiling of a memorial statue in front of Buckingham Palace. Sitting on her throne, the old queen is depicted wearing one of her favourite crowns. When she succeeded her uncle, King William IV, to the throne in 1837, her crown was set with stones from the reign of her ancestor, King George I. These included the Black Prince ruby and many brilliant pearls and fine sapphires. Later, she ordered a new, smaller crown to be made by Garrards, the crown jewellers. It weighed just 4 ounces and sat neatly on the top of her head.
Queen Victoria suffered migraines in later life, and she found that the crown's far too heavy. That's why we at Garrard made the small, very, very small crown for her to wear. And she always wore it at the top of the head or at the back on the bun, with or without the arches.
Her beautiful little diamond crown, made in 1870, became the trademark for her reign, made stronger by her marriage to Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. The couple were deeply devoted to each other, and their marriage was an extremely happy one. Sadly, when Albert died, the Queen was only 42, and for the rest of her life, she cherished his wedding present to her, a big sapphire brooch clasped by a dozen diamonds. Queen Victoria called it Albert's brooch, and more than 100 years later, her great-great-granddaughter, the Queen, regularly wears it on her lapel.
The Albert brooch is a very charming piece which Prince Albert had made for Queen Victoria and gave to her on the night before the wedding when they were betrothed here in London. And it's a wonderful sapphire, and it's a beautiful piece, and I think very romantic.
Princess Elizabeth wore Albert's brooch for Princess Anne's christening at Buckingham Palace. Her mother and her grandmother, Queen Mary, had also worn it on many occasions. During a visit to her estates in the northwest of England, the Queen's tenant farmers had a close-up view of one of the most precious personal treasures from the royal jewellery collection. Its estimated value today is £150,000. A cherished memory of her great-great-grandmother. Another memento from Queen Victoria's era is her Golden Jubilee necklace from 1887, containing circles of exquisite diamonds around pearl centres with a drop pearl pendant. 50 years ago, the Queen was filmed wearing it at a film premiere. Queen Victoria's ancestor, King George IV, owned a diamond crown decorated with shamrocks, thistles, and rented gemstones. The Hanoverian king did not, in fact, wear this diadem to his coronation because it was considered too effeminate to be worn on such a grand occasion.
George IV's coronation, the new crown was made, and he was under strict orders from Parliament what he could have in his crown. So he then decided that he would have flower bouquets between the Maltese crosses. The flower bouquets represent England, Scotland, and Ireland. He didn't actually wear it for his coronation because it was considered to be too feminine. Originally, it would have been set with semi-precious stones that would have been hired from the jewellers for the coronation, because in those days they couldn't afford to have crowns and diadems set with real stones and keep them. So the jewellers came in, and they were all the jewels were hired and sent back afterwards. If the jewels were left in the crowns, the sovereign would have pawned them, hocked them to pay gambling debts, or, as turned out, mistresses in those days.
As a precaution against theft, Queen Victoria soldered her jewels onto the Hanoverian diadem, and to this day, most of them are still in place. At the annual state opening of Parliament, the Queen arrives wearing the Hanoverian diadem.
She wears it leaving Buckingham Palace, travelling in the coach to the House of Lords. She then walks up the grand staircase into the robing room where that crown, the diadem, is removed, and she then puts on the more important imperial state crown.
On her wedding day in 1947, Princess Elizabeth wore another relic from her German ancestors, the Hanoverian fringe tiara.
The tiara that Princess Elizabeth wore is known as the Hanoverian tiara, and it was in fact designed and made in 1830 for Queen Victoria. It was made of old diamonds from the time of George III, and it was creating this wonderful, quite spiky tiara, quite high, which can also be worn as a necklace, interestingly enough. The royal family are very, very, very good with their jewellery. They can be worn for lots of different things. Anyway, Queen Victoria had it made in 1830 and left it to the Crown, and Queen Mary wore it. There are pictures of Queen Mary wearing it. And then Princess Elizabeth wore it for her wedding because it was lent to her by her mother. On Princess Elizabeth's wedding day, two unforeseen things occurred. One was that the beautiful Hanoverian tiara, diamond tiara, actually the frame broke, which is a nightmare situation for anybody. But of course, unlike anybody, she did in fact have the court jeweller standing by, but in his workshop. And he had to be sent for double swift to come and mend the thing. And I think she was very, very nervous and had to be reassured by her mother. And also, she wanted to wear the double row, the famous double row of pearls, which had been given to her by her parents, by her father, I think in particular, on her wedding day. And they were on display with the rest of the royal presence, which was extremely awkward. So in a London which was paralysed with traffic problems, her newly appointed private secretary, John Colville, was dispatched across London to get this priceless pearls and somehow get them back to Buckingham Palace. But he couldn't get back. Once he'd actually persuaded them to give him the pearls, I imagine sharp words were spoken, he had to commandeer one of the royal limousines belonging to King Haakon of Norway to somehow get through and give them to the bride-to-be.
On her wedding day in 1973, Princess Anne wore the Hanoverian fringe tiara, which had been lent to her by her grandmother. It had adorned many royal heads since it was originally set in diamonds more than 150 years ago. At another royal wedding in 1893, Princess Mary of Teck married the future King George V. Later, as Queen Mary, this woman would have a devastating effect on the history of the royal jewels. This tiara, a gift from the girls of Great Britain, was one of her favourite wedding presents. Bought for £5,000, its estimated value today is £500,000. Light on the head, it's easy to wear. Inherited from her grandmother, the Queen uses it constantly on official occasions. Affectionately known as Granny's Tiara, it has 9 large oriental pearls on diamond spikes set on a bandeau base of 27 brilliant diamonds enclosed in a metal band.
Tiaras are a symbol of authority, a symbol of power. That's why when the Queen's wearing her crown, it makes a fact. I am the Queen, I am the head. And when a lady wears a hat, she must feel very important. Or a gentleman wears a top hat, for instance. It's a symbol of authority, of class, perhaps.
Queen Mary's obsession with the family jewels reflect in the images of the monarchy in recent times. Early in her marriage, Princess Diana transformed some royal emeralds into an eye-catching headband. The emeralds belonged to Queen Mary, who left them to her granddaughter, the Queen. Known as the Cambridge Emeralds, their history is an intriguing one. Queen Mary's mother, the Duchess of Cambridge, and her husband Adolphus acquired them in Germany in a rather unusual way.
They went to Frankfurt on a tour, and there was a lottery for a charity. And the Duchess of Cambridge decided that, yes, she would buy some tickets, and actually won, and was presented with this brown box full of these emeralds.
The Duchess of Cambridge gave the globular green cabochon gems to her son Frank, who gave them to his mistress. When he died suddenly, his sister Mary wasted no time in retrieving them.
He was a real ne'er-do-well. He was a great gambler, you know, he had a bit of this Irish blarney in him, and he showered jewels on his mistress, and Queen Mary, his sister, wasn't having any of that. He died rather suddenly, and she was horrified to find that the Cambridge emeralds, the family emeralds, had been given to his Irish mistress. Off she went, can't you just imagine, her tiara on her head, the Grand Queen Mary, and she got those emeralds back.
Years later, the Queen wears the Cambridge emeralds suspended in a very valuable Russian tiara, her guests unaware of the history attached to the contents of her headgear.
Of the Africa 95 Festival.
Princess Diana proved that she was not a prisoner of the past, transforming her emeralds into a necklace and earrings.
Again, Diana was very inventive, very original in the way she used these beautiful emeralds. Historic stones, and she had great courage. She wasn't in awe of them, and she took the Cambridge emeralds and turned them into, again, a choker, quite a fairly narrow choker, which she also wore again as a bandeau, very 20s style. It was a very young and exciting look, and she wore the bandeau round her head during the tour of Australia when she took to the floor, swept off by Prince Charles. And again, it's a very memorable image of the young Princess of Wales.
In 1911, King George and Queen Mary were crowned Emperor and Empress of India. The Queen was showered with gifts of Indian jewels, which she mixed with the Cambridge emeralds to create a parure worth £2 million at today's prices. For the occasion, a crown was specially made for the king. It contained a fabulous array of remarkably fine emeralds, sapphires, rubies, and over 6,000 diamonds sent from India.
The Imperial Crown was created specially for the Delhi Durbar. In 1911, George V was the first and only British monarch that actually was crowned Emperor of India in November 1911. And it was just the most amazing event of the day. And so therefore a new crown had to be made, because the crowns of England may never leave the shore of this country by Act of Parliament. So therefore we have a new crown.
Can you imagine one of those Indian celebrations when people arrive in elephants on howdahs? When I say people, I mean Maharaja kind of people. And when there's somebody fanning you from behind on this hot day and you're sitting under some extraordinary throne, probably the throne itself is studded with jewels. This is what Queen Mary and King George V went through at the beginning of their reign, when India was the most important part of the future Commonwealth. And the Maharajas came up to them carrying these incredible jewels as presents. Queen Mary received emeralds in her own right from the Indian people, and she had those made up into fantastic jewels. She mixed them with the Cambridge emeralds to make different parure. Diana was given one of the emerald sets, and Prince Charles bought her an Art Deco emerald and diamond bracelet to go with it. Like so much he didn't know about his young wife, he didn't know she didn't like emeralds.
Elsewhere, a whiff of the Cambridge emeralds is in the air. Pinned to the Queen's lapel is an emerald brooch surrounded by 2 circles of diamonds. Off-duty and on, the Queen wears a Duchess of Cambridge brooch with 14 cut diamonds. At the turn of the century, the Russian royal family was very interwoven with its British counterparts. Tsar Nicholas II was married to Queen Victoria's granddaughter Alex, and the young Tsar Nicholas and King George were cousins. On holiday as young men, they spent many happy times together. During a trip in Russian waters in 1908, they were filmed aboard the royal yacht in the company of other members of their families. But the storm clouds of revolution were blowing, and with the murder of the Tsar and his family by the Bolsheviks in 1918, the royal relatives escaped to all corners of Europe. Grand Duchess Vladimir fled to Switzerland, carrying her jewels.
Members of the Russian royal family who were down on their luck and had nothing but their jewels to support themselves sort of sold them privately. They weren't very practical people. The Grand Duchess Olga, she was a woman who'd never had to deal with money. And of course it seems like a godsend when Queen Mary comes along saying, let me sort it out for you. I know this jeweller, and of course I'd love to have them. And she took the pick of the Russian jewels. Whether she ever paid for them in full at the proper price is very doubtful, although I think a lot was given in kind to these exiled Russian relatives. They had grace and favour homes rather as some of the minor royals do today, so perhaps there was a trade-off there. But in real jewellery terms, Queen Mary did not pay the full whack.
Among the jewels acquired by Queen Mary was Grand Duchess Vladimir's tiara. The Queen inherited it in 1951 and has worn it on many state occasions. Comprising of 15 interlaced diamond circles with an interchangeable swinging pearl in each, it's estimated to be worth £2 million at today's prices. Other Russian jewels bought by Queen Mary included a cabochon sapphire brooch surrounded by 2 rows of diamonds with a pearl drop hanging from a collet diamond. In 1929, Queen Mary purchased a diamond chain-linked choker necklace belonging to the Dowager Empress Marie of Russia. The downfall of the Russian royal family helped to fuel Queen Mary's obsession with jewels. Her passion for jewellery was unsurpassed, and she expressed herself through her mania for collecting. When she died in 1953, she handed down her jewels to her children and grandchildren. Her 4th son, George, the Duke of Kent, married Princess Marina, the granddaughter of Grand Duchess Vladimir. The Duke's family inherited a variety of valuable Russian jewels, including a spiky Russian tiara that Princess Michael of Kent inherited from her mother-in-law. Queen Mary's 3rd son, Henry, Duke of Gloucester, and his family inherited an exquisite diamond tiara once belonging to the Dowager Empress Marie of Russia. The young Duchess of Gloucester wears it for official functions. On other occasions, she is photographed wearing diamonds and pearls passed down from distant Russian relatives. The Russian Kokoshnik fringe tiara comprises of 61 platinum bars encrusted with 488 diamonds made in the shape of a peasant headdress. This was a present to Princess Alexandra from the Ladies of Society on her silver wedding anniversary in 1888. A similar one was worn by Alex, the Tsarina of Russia. Princess Alexandra is photographed wearing one for her wedding anniversary at Marlborough House. To accompany it, she wore 2 exquisite floret earrings with large centre diamonds surrounded by slightly smaller ones. Queen Mary inherited the Kokoshnik tiara from her mother-in-law and passed it on to the Queen, who wears it on formal occasions when she entertains other heads of state.
We do not always see eye to eye.
In 1995, the Queen's state visit to Russia posed the very delicate problem of what jewels she should wear, if any. How awkward that she was scheduled to visit the tombs of her royal cousins, the Tsars, for the first time, when thanks to her grandmother, Queen Mary, she had the pick of their best jewels at home in a vault. Her Russian trip included Moscow and a visit to a gala performance at the Bolshoi Ballet. During the stopover, it was a deliberate choice to wear the sapphire and diamond parure that she had received as a wedding present from her father, rather than choosing any of her inherited Russian jewels.
The Queen didn't really want to offend anybody by wearing something that could have upset them. So the jewel collection was looked at very, very carefully. It's the same wherever she goes. And if she goes off to Canada, Australia, it's always nice to, on that occasion, to wear something that has been given from that country. But as the jewels had come from Russia under sort of slightly, perhaps, mysterious circumstances, the Queen didn't want to upset anybody, so she kept away completely from all the Russian jewels, and in fact wore the sapphire and diamonds at the Bolshoi Ballet. When I was actually there at the Bolshoi Theatre, when the Queen walked into the box, and it was a 10-minute standing ovation, and she could not believe that people were appreciating her in this way. She was absolutely overwhelmed.
Inspired by the design of a Russian lover's bow knot tiara, Queen Mary had a similar one made. Comprising of 19 diamond arches, the oriental pearl drops hang from a diamond lover's bow knot with single diamonds and upright pearl spikes. The Queen inherited it from her grandmother and gave it to Princess Diana as a wedding present. In the 19th century, a lover's bow knot tiara was a popular design.
You know, Queen Mary had all these relatives strung out through Germany and Russia, and she used to go in the summer. It was called the gathering of the royal mob. They used to kind of go on their summer holidays together, a very upmarket Butlins or Club Mediterranee with just members of the royal family. And then, of course, they all dressed for dinner in those days, tiaras, the whole bit. And Queen Mary then would have seen jewels that she loved. And the bow knot tiara was something that she had copied by Garrard just before the First World War and the Russian Revolution, 1914, using jewels that, pearls especially, that she had been given as a wedding present, but had it made for herself, gave it to the Queen, who has hardly worn it, and then the Queen gave it to Princess Diana as the future Queen.
The lover's bow knot tiara is one of only 2 pieces of royal jewellery which Diana owned outright. It is part of her legacy.
She used her own personality to make the tiara part of her image. And the lover's knot tiara, which was a wedding present to her from Her Majesty the Queen, I think has created some of the most dramatic images of Diana that we will all remember and cherish. It is too much a part of Diana's legend.
In 1843, Queen Victoria appointed Garrards as the crown jewellers. Many of the royal jewels had been made by Garrards, and when the future King Edward VII married Princess Alexandra in 1863, he gave her a brilliant necklace of festooned diamonds and pearls made by Garrards. It has 8 circular clusters of diamonds with large pearls at the centre of each. The matching earrings are owned by the Queen today, and the oblong diamond brooch belongs to the Queen Mother. Since the accession of her husband to the throne in 1936, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, has often worn Queen Alexandra's necklace. Here, at a film premiere 50 years ago, her elegant manner reflects the majesty of the occasion. The Queen personally pays Garrards to look after her personal collection of jewels. In their workshop, high-quality gems are delicately crafted into stunning jewellery worth thousands of pounds. Prince Charles paid Garrards £28,000 for Princess Diana's sapphire and diamond engagement ring, which has been inherited by her son, Prince William. In 1936, the future of the British monarchy was threatened when the Queen's uncle, King Edward VIII, abdicated to marry the twice-divorced Mrs. Wallis Simpson. This constitutional crisis also led to royal jewels being taken over by an outsider. From the start, Wallis Simpson received in her engagement ring a flawless stone which was half of one of the greatest emeralds in the world. King Edward had ordered the jeweller Cartier to make the ring, and as a regular customer was quoted a special price, £10,000, the equivalent of $500,000 today. Throughout his marriage, he celebrated their relationship by giving his wife numerous jewels to create a priceless collection.
Most of the jewels she had were either bought for her by the besotted future Duke of Windsor, or otherwise they were made up from jewels that he had been given in India, that is, raw stones. But they weren't actually jewels that, say, Queen Victoria had worn.
This was the collection to rival even the Queen's.
When the Duke of Windsor died, it went to the Duchess, and thereafter the bulk of it, as far as I understand, went to charity for AIDS research. They fetched a phenomenal price, something like 10 times more than was expected, because they'd been owned by the Duchess of Windsor, because there'd been all this royal romance connected to them.
One of Wallis's favourite jewels, her ruby necklace, fetched over £1.5 million from a mystery buyer at the Geneva auction in 1987, when the whole collection was sold for a total of £27 million. Buyers included the dress designer Calvin Klein, who bought 4 items for over £870,000. Aaron Spelling, the TV producer of Dynasty, purchased a necklace for his wife, and Elizabeth Taylor bought the Prince of Wales diamond brooch for £350,000, now worth an estimated £1 million.
The Duchess of Windsor's jewels, of course, were sold up for charity. Now, that's something that I don't think we'll be seeing for other members of the royal family. But some pieces did manage to sneak their way back into the royal family. You know, Princess Michael of Kent, who befriended the Duchess before she died, I think maybe she felt a little bit of an outsider, and therefore they've had something in common. And she received, as a gift, a pair of panther earrings, those famous Cartier earrings. And she wears them very occasionally, but not, I would imagine, in front of the Queen.
One of the Queen Mother's favourite pieces of jewellery is a regal Indian tiara and necklace made by Garrards for Queen Victoria in 1853. Originally it contained 2,678 diamonds and 70 opals. But Queen Alexandra had the unlucky opals removed and replaced with rubies from an Indian necklace. The tiara and necklace belong to the state and are technically on loan to the Queen Mother in the course of duty. But her daughter the Queen is quoted as saying, "Mummy will give them back one day." At Princess Margaret's wedding in 1960, the crowning glory of her dress was an unusual tiara.
Margaret's tiara was interesting because it wasn't a piece of jewellery that had sort of been handed down from generation or mother to daughter or anything like that. It was a tiara which actually had been bought at Sotheby's by the royal family for £5,500, for those who want to know, from Lord Poltimore. And it is, I'm sure, still a very, very beautiful tiara, totally different from the Hanoverian tiara, which is quite spiky and quite almost graphic looking. Princess Margaret's hair was rather modern. I think it was called the chrysanthemum cut, which is rather devastating today. And being so tiny, or perhaps I suspect also to give the tiara she wore some depth, some kind of presence, she had a hairpiece, and this is the first time ever that we know that a royal bride has worn a hairpiece on her wedding day.
One of Princess Margaret's favourite possessions is the tiara in the 1920s style, which she handed down to her future daughter-in-law, Serena Stanhope. At her wedding to Princess Margaret's son, Lord David Linley, Serena was stylish in her choice of jewellery and wore this simple hand-me-down royal tiara.
It's very interesting how often all brides do tip a nod to something that's gone past, sort of, it's a little tribute, if you like, something like that. But it also gave her height and presence on her wedding day.
In her early years, a young Princess Margaret was the Princess Diana of her day. Years later, this darling of the media was replaced by another beautiful young woman. Princess Diana had arrived. On a visit to Australia in 1983, she wore a glittering diamond necklace lent to her by the Queen, who had received it as a gift from King Faisal of Saudi Arabia. Back in Britain at a banquet hosted by the Queen at Hampton Court, Diana wore a large ice blue sapphire brooch surrounded by a double row of diamonds, a wedding present from the Queen Mother. Later, Diana redesigned the brooch to create a stunning diamond, sapphire and pearl choker, more in keeping with her modern image.
At the beginning, she wore that huge sapphire and diamond cluster in a rather conventional way, rather traditional way. And then, as her style developed, she began to impose her own personality, her own style, to wear her jewellery in very new and fresh and original ways. And it became one of her signature pieces, particularly towards the end of her life, when she began to wear those spectacularly sexy evening gowns with just one huge piece of jewellery.
Another of Diana's wedding presents, this time from the Saudi royal family, was a magnificent suite of sapphires and diamonds.
One of the most important of her wedding gifts came from the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and it was a whole suite of jewels. But her favourite piece from this suite was a necklace of diamonds on which was hung a huge Burmese sapphire, surrounded in a much more modern style with baguette diamonds in a setting that we call a ballerina setting. The most dramatic change she made to that set was to create for herself a choker with the sapphires on a band of velvet, which she wore not only as a choker but also as a bandeau around her head, around her forehead, very 20s style. And this was something that she did. It was great fun. She did it on several occasions.
On another occasion, during an official visit to Germany in 1986, Diana wore a fabulous suite of jewels, a gift from the Sultan of Oman, comprising a modern diamond necklace and matching earrings. It was known as the Crescent set. Valued at £1 million, it became one of Diana's favourites, and she wore it with historic and contemporary jewels.
Diana was very clever in mixing old and new. As I said, this was a very contemporary design, and she wore it very well with the Spencer family tiara or with the love knot tiara. And so she created a very special, very royal, very regal look for herself by combining the old and the new in this way.
A royal wedding, and the family bring out their heirlooms. For the Queen, it was her magnificent flower brooch made from the world's largest pink diamond. The world's most perfect pink diamond was made into a daffodil flower brooch by Cartier and given to the Queen as a wedding present from a Canadian millionaire. Its estimated value today is £3 million. In 1893, the Queen's grandmother, Queen Mary, received from the ladies of Kensington a wedding present of a bow-shaped diamond brooch with a large oriental pearl drop. To celebrate her wedding, ladies from various British towns presented their gifts at 30-minute intervals, and bow brooches were popular offerings. At her daughter's christening in 1950, Princess Elizabeth wore a bow brooch given to her grandmother by the ladies of Dorset. Bow brooches have been popular with royalty since the 17th century, and Garrard's made a set of 3 from diamonds supplied by Queen Victoria. Queen Alexandra and Queen Mary wore them at their coronations, and the Queen is regularly seen wearing bow brooches inherited from her grandmother. Queen Victoria was given a bow brooch for her Golden Jubilee. Now her Jubilee brooch is one of the Queen Mother's favourite pieces of jewellery, incorporating a bold pearl and diamond flower with a distinctive loop of diamonds and a teardrop pearl. Wearing costume jewellery distanced Princess Diana from other members of the royal family. She frequented many fashionable stores in search of ideas. On one occasion, Diana bought an imaginative jewelled snake to wear at a pop concert.
She went for very classic things, but then she would try something like the snake. She would wear things that were quite adventurous, but she always bought very classic things too that you would see her wearing all the time. She bought a little pair of earrings that were French glass earrings, black French glass earrings. She wore them all the time. They were £5. So it wasn't intrinsic things, it was because it went. She wore things because it actually fitted with what she was wearing. Another famous pair of earrings that she wore all the time were silver earrings, just a plain gold. So she accessorized herself. She would try things from the very simple to the very exciting things. A big star necklace or a wonderful star pinned on the back of her hair.
Tiaras were a problem.
It's a long time to put on a tiara. You need a lot of help with it. It's heavy. You have to have your hair done. Diana complained that it gave her a headache and a neck ache. And I think at times when she had to prepare for her evenings out very early in the day, she said that she had to wear it all through nursery tea with her boys, which must have been a little bit uncomfortable.
Diana wore fashion jewellery for fun to complement her high fashion wardrobe. She possessed few fine jewels to her taste, and during her life she was never given a diamond necklace, so fake pearls were a convenient way of expressing herself.
I think it's hard to talk about Diana's jewels or any Princess of Wales jewels without talking about pearls. She wasn't frightened by the heritage of pearls in royal jewels. She wasn't frightened by protocol to experiment with wearing pearls in different ways. But they're so bound up with the legend of royalty, and particularly with the Princess of Wales, that again they became part of her. They became her trademark. And there's one memorable occasion when, again, Diana, using her famous wit and her great sense of humour, which we know about, she wore a long rope of beautiful, sumptuous pearls, just knotted very casually down the back of a dress with a V.
She would have had a soulmate in Queen Alexandra, who herself, can you believe, in spite of her great collection of jewels, had false pearls and a lot of false stones to make amusing things for herself. And there's a funny story about how, when she was riding one of those coaches, her pearl choker suddenly split, and the courtiers in panic scrabbled and tried to pick up every single pearl that was rolling away. Queen Alexandra sat there very serenely, as well she might have done, because they were all fakes.
The crown jewels of England belong to the state and are kept in the Tower of London. Their value is incalculable. They represent far more than gold and precious stones. They stand for hundreds of years of English history and have been used by kings and queens since the 17th century. The Queen's jewels are her personal property, and their value is almost incalculable too. At today's prices, she would realise an estimated £45 million, not counting their historic provenance. At auction, maybe £300 million, using the yardstick of the Duchess of Windsor's jewellery auction in Paris. Since the days of Queen Victoria's empire and Queen Mary's mania for collecting royal jewels, the royal family has amassed one of the greatest fortunes in the world. Tiaras, diadems and crowns have become their trademark. "We have too much already," the Queen told the Marchioness of Cambridge. Maybe she feels that her jewels, like other royal treasures, are something that she is guardian of while she is Queen, until they are passed on to the next generation of future royal brides. It all started out so well. On Diana's wedding day, the new princess had to borrow her sister's pearl choker to leave on her honeymoon. And at another royal wedding, the future for the royal jewels looked rosy. What went wrong?
I often think about the wisdom of the Queen as a mother and a grandmother and a head of the family. It always puzzled me that Diana wasn't given more royal jewels. And certainly Sarah, the Duchess of York, got nothing. I mean, she got pieces that were bought at Garrard's. I think she didn't give them because she suspected right from the start, maybe, that these marriages were going to be difficult. And the jewels perhaps were held back to be given for 10th wedding anniversaries or 20th or 25th wedding anniversaries.
Today, more than ever, jewels spell majesty. When royalty is on display, they shine. Jewelry speaks an international language. It generates for the people who wear them a sense of overwhelming opulence, social supremacy, and confidence. Jewels are indeed the true currency of royalty.